Good afternoon, everyone. While the west side of the state is expecting another major blast of snow, one local golf course is betting on spring. The Meadows announced they'll open for the season tomorrow. Carts won't be available. It's too wet out there, but you can start booking tee times on the City of Moorhead website. Let's get straight to Nathan for a look at the forecast. Is it golfing weather, Nathan?
Oh boy, well, it's not golfing weather today, Stacy, and tomorrow I'd really be very cautious about golfing tomorrow as well. But right now, as we all know, windy, rainy, cold for most of us. Look at this, our Grand Forks Home of Economy Skycam. Don't need to fix your TV. Yeah, that's just all that mist and those raindrops they're collecting on our lens there in Grand Forks. So here's how things are looking, of course, across the region at this hour. We're seeing a lot of green, but a lot of this rain that we're seeing not showing up on radar at this hour. But where we are seeing some activity that's very much more organized is up here in Beltrami County up toward Waskish, seeing some thunderstorms making their way through, maybe some small hail occurring in these storms, but notice those are quickly moving their way out. So most of the storm activity is done once this exits until later on tonight when we're watching another round of some strong to perhaps severe storms here late tonight. Did get a report from near the Crookston area of some hail. That's around nickel size. Saw some hail there earlier today. And also south of Findlay saw some flooding over the highway there south of town thanks to one of those soakers of a storm that moved through there earlier today. A big picture, of course, looking at those temperatures. Yeah, we're still seeing those temperatures 40s and 50s south. So that warmer air from Mobridge down toward Aberdeen, they'll be feeding some of those storms here later on today. Notice it's still cold enough up toward the north, so still could see some strong storms tonight up toward the north, but not a lot of energy up there when you factor in those temperatures only in the 30s. Now for tomorrow, take note of this. The severe weather risk has now expanded in toward Fargo and Grand Forks. That slight risk, that 2 out of 5 on the severe weather risk scale. Hail, tornadoes, damaging wind, localized flooding, all threats possible with this system tomorrow afternoon. So again, that's why I'm not too sold on it being golf weather tomorrow, Stacy, but I'll break down what we can expect for both tonight with that severe weather chance and tomorrow's severe weather chance in a few minutes.
All right, thanks so much, Nathan. New for you here at 4, we told you Monday about this fire in South Fargo. 2 homes ended up catching fire, a third was starting to melt, but check this out. Police have released body camera footage to show the cooperation between the Fargo Police and Fire Department when fighting that blaze. The video shows the teams working together and police establishing a perimeter to make sure traffic didn't get in the way. The cause of the fire remains under investigation. A garage in South Fargo is badly damaged after a fire overnight. The call came from the 1000 block of 5th Street North. The car that was parked nearby was also heavily damaged. Fire officials are still investigating how that fire started. 7 people are arrested and facing charges after a lengthy drug investigation in the Northern Valley. The investigation has been going on since January when East Grand Forks police found someone dead who appeared to have been poisoned by a blue M30 pill. 4 people were arrested Tuesday when arrest warrants were executed. One of them is facing a 3rd-degree murder charge. Police say the pills were from a group based in Chicago and Minneapolis who had been sending distributors to Fargo and the Grand Cities area. 3 more people were arrested the following day when a search warrant was executed on 4th Street Northwest in East Grand Forks. More than 800 M30 fentanyl pills were seized, along with more than $2,000 in cash. More arrests and charges are expected. New information on a body found north of Holly Wednesday morning. The Clay County Sheriff's Office named the driver of the vehicle as 27-year-old Tyler McCloskey of Detroit Lakes. Deputies also found a car and car parts in the same area. Officials say it's unknown when the crash happened or what led up to it. The UN Secretary General plans to meet with Russia's president next week to make an urgent plea for peace. But in the meantime, new images show the brutal humanitarian toll of the war in Ukraine. 8 weeks into conflict, Ukrainian authorities say more than 20,000 civilians have been killed. Skylar Henry has the latest from Washington.
Crews removed bodies from the bombed wreckage of Mariupol. Russian President Vladimir Putin has claimed victory there. But the local steel mill remains a holdout. Russian forces say they've blockaded the plant where thousands of Ukrainian fighters are holed up against attacks and civilians are taking shelter. These satellite images are believed to show rows of mass graves outside Mariupol. City officials say the area could hold more than 9,000 bodies. Britain's prime minister says it's a realistic possibility that Putin's war in Ukraine could continue through the end of next year.
The only option he now has really is to continue to try to use his appalling grinding approach, led by artillery, trying to grind the Ukrainians down.
The Biden administration has committed billions of dollars in funding and weapons to Ukraine since the invasion began, but the Ukrainian government is asking for more. In a blistering op-ed, Ukraine's defense minister called for air and missile defense systems, saying the Western response has been too slow.
We, in keeping and with another 30-plus nations, are doing everything we can to give them the tools that they need to defend themselves and to push the Russians out.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said in a video message that Russia rejected a truce proposal for this weekend's Orthodox Christian Easter, but that he still hopes for peace. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Washington.
A senior Russian military commander said today Moscow wants complete control of not just eastern Ukraine, but the southern region as well. Wall Street opened lower today after Fed Chairman Jerome Powell said the central bank is going to be more aggressive in fighting inflation, and bigger interest rate hikes are on the table when the Fed meets next month. That pushed up yields on government bonds and in turn pressured stocks. The Dow fell more than 2.5%, while the S&P 500 dropped nearly 110 points and the Nasdaq slid 2.4%. President Biden delivered remarks in Seattle today to discuss how his administration is working to fight climate change. The president signed a new executive order to protect the nation's forests on federal lands. On this Earth Day, the president also promoted the provisions of the bipartisan physical infrastructure law, which would include more than $1.5 billion for state, local, and tribal forestation programs. He also said the younger generation is putting pressure on politicians to enact more green legislation.
Change continues today, and a new generation of Americans helping us lead the way against the threat of climate change. This young generation is not going to put up with all this stuff. No, they're not. I mean, they are really, really energized, whether it's basic human rights or it's the environment.
Also on this Earth Day, demand for electricity is surging and wind and solar power are booming to record levels. But experts say there are still obstacles on the road to clean energy. CBS's Tina Kraus reports from London.
The winds of change are moving faster than ever, with 50 countries, including the U.S., generating more than 10% of their electricity last year from wind and solar power.
Most countries have now realised that wind and solar are a kind of essential part of their future electricity system.
Researchers at the energy think tank Ember say the fastest transformations are happening in the Netherlands, Australia, and Vietnam. All three switched a tenth of their power from fossil fuels to green sources in the last 2 years. In 2021, all sources of clean energy accounted for 38% of the world's power supply, even more than coal.
Do you believe we are on the road to a cleaner future?
We're moving in completely the right direction. We just need to keep that momentum and that growth going.
As the world's economies bounced back from the pandemic, demand for energy soared, causing a surge in coal power, mostly in China and India, driving rates to the highest level since 1985. With gas prices skyrocketing, spurred on by the war in Ukraine, analysts warn reliance on coal could escalate as European countries look for alternatives to Russian oil and gas. Experts hope the burst of popularity in wind and solar power will be the turning point toward a greener future. Tina Kraus, CBS News, London.
Wind power use in the U.S. hit a huge milestone last month. The U.S. Department of Energy says on March 29th, wind turbines produced more electricity than both coal and nuclear energy for the first time in history. A federal appeals court has upheld a ruling that dismisses a lawsuit brought by the state of North Dakota and several western counties that could have meant the construction of additional roads in parts of the Badlands. The Badlands Conservation Alliance says the ruling protects some of the most pristine areas of the Badlands from traffic and potential oil development. A 3-judge panel of the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals found the state's and county's claim is barred by a 12-year statute of limitations that was passed years ago. The Fargo Pop Expo is happening this weekend and setup has started. Here's a live look. Among other special guests, you can meet and greet our Valley News Live team. We'll have a table there inside the Butler Arena at the Red River Valley Fairgrounds. The expo is all things pop culture with several movie displays. The Batmobile is there and special guests will be there like Barry Williams from the Brady Bunch and Butch Patrick, who played Eddie Munster. Come say hi. Members of our team will be there from 10 to 5 Saturday and 10 to 4 on Sunday. Later.